All right, let's dive straight into this explainer and unpack the exact neurobiological mechanisms that elite students use to engineer just absolute unbreakable focus. Picture two people with the exact same impossible task ahead of them. One is about to lock in and get the best results of their life, and the other, well, they're about to burn out at 2 a.m. The difference between them isn't brain power or how smart they are, it's neurochemistry. Today we're going to figure out how to maximize your focus using science, not just brute force.
Now, if you're familiar with that 2 a.m. panic, doom scrolling on your phone while actively hating yourself for doing it, and let's be honest, we've all been there, I need you to understand something super important. You are not fighting a moral failing here. You're fighting 1,000 Silicon Valley engineers whose literal full-time job is to hack your brain. Your brain's reward system is getting hijacked by these massive, unpredictable dopamine hits, and honestly, your textbooks just can't compete with that naturally.
So, the real takeaway here is that while this hijacked attention span isn't your fault, getting it back is absolutely your responsibility. You don't lack discipline. What you lack is a system. And we're going to fix this by taking that toxic myth of endless willpower and replacing it with a rock-solid, science-backed protocol.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The willpower myth. 2. Your brain on distraction. 3. Engineering the focus environment. 4. The 90-20 focus protocol. And finally, number 5, measuring true focus. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The willpower myth. Why waiting for motivation is a massive trap. Okay, so this is probably the biggest lie you've ever been told. The idea that you just need to feel motivated to do hard things. The willpower myth tells you that you're just lazy and you need to wait for a sudden spark of inspiration. But the neurobiological reality is completely different. Motivation is just an emotion, right? And emotions go up and down like waves. Building your academic future on motivation is, quite literally, like building a house on a turbulent ocean. A protocol, though, that acts as bedrock. It works even when you feel like absolute garbage.
Moving right along to Section 2, your brain on distraction, the hidden chemistry of procrastination.
Let's peek directly at your brain chemistry to see why just starting a task feels so incredibly overwhelming. Enter the freeze loop. When you stare at a massive assignment, your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain, perceives it as a literal threat. It spikes your cortisol and actually powers down your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part of your brain. Your brain is reacting to a math textbook exactly how it would react to a saber-toothed tiger. It freezes your executive function right in its tracks to protect you from the threat of failure.
And because your brain is on such high alert, the damage of a single distraction is just catastrophic. Think about the number 23 for a second. It takes exactly 23 minutes for your brain to regain deep focus after a single tiny interruption. If you glance at a phone notification for just 5 seconds, you don't just lose 5 seconds, you lose up to 23 minutes of your absolute best cognitive power. Every single notification is like taking a sledgehammer to the neural connections you're trying to build.
Section 3. Engineering the focus environment. Bypassing the amygdala and killing cognitive leaks.
Because distraction is so costly, we have to engineer a space where it physically cannot reach you, completely bypassing that amygdala freeze response. You do this through an activation ritual to drastically lower the energy it takes to start. Step 1, sit in the exact same physical spot every time. Step 2, write down one highly specific one-sentence goal. And Step 3, commit to just 10 minutes of mechanical, frictionless work. Why 10 minutes? Because it's so short your brain can't use its favorite excuse of being overwhelmed. Once you start, the brain's natural desire to finish what it started, which is known as the Zeigarnik effect, kicks in, and the boulder finally starts rolling.
But to sustain that momentum, your environment has to be heavily curated, kind of like a South Korean hagwon cubicle. Distance is your absolute best friend here. Your phone needs to be physically in another room, not just face down on the desk. You also have to apply the friction rule. When the work gets hard and you get that urge to quit, force yourself to sit in that discomfort for 5 more seconds. That friction is the exact moment actual learning happens. You've got to embrace boredom to lower your baseline dopamine and ensure absolutely zero cognitive leaks by keeping only your current assignment visible.
All right, Section 4, the 90-20 focus protocol, hacking your biological rhythms.
Look, forcing a 12-hour grind is nothing but fatigue disguised as effort. Elite focus isn't about ignoring your body. It's about leveraging your ultradian rhythms. These are your natural biological cycles, basically 90 minutes of peak cognitive capacity, followed inevitably by a 20-minute natural crash. Elite students don't fight this biology. They ride these exact rhythms to achieve what feels like an illegal, surgical level of focus.
So in practice, a perfect study block breaks down exactly like this. 90 minutes of surgically clean, uninterrupted deep work, followed by exactly 20 minutes of pure, screen-free rest. You don't try to stretch it to 3 hours, because pushing past that 90-minute mark without resting actively degrades the information you just learned.
But pay super close attention to this next rule because it's a real game changer. True rest must be boring on purpose. No screens, no scrolling whatsoever. If you open TikTok or Instagram during your 20-minute break, you are immediately hijacking your dopamine system. You flood your brain with cheap stimulation, which means your next 90-minute cycle is going to start out completely drained. Stare at a wall, drink a glass of water, go for a walk. Just let your brain consolidate those new memories in total silence.
Which brings us to our last stop, Section 5, Measuring True Focus, the math behind elite studying.
So, what actually separates the people who just survive the education system from the ones who completely weaponize it? It comes down to a metric called the Senonen coefficient. It calculates your pure focus time divided by the total time you sat at your desk. Think about it. If you sit there for 4 hours but only achieve 60 minutes of real focus, your coefficient is a terrible 0.25. But if you sit down for just under 2 hours and get 90 minutes of pure flow, your coefficient jumps to 0.81. This math proves exactly why a clean, highly focused 3-hour session is always worth more than a completely distracted 8-hour session.
This metric really forces you to choose between two profiles. Do you want to be the busy student, putting on an exhausting 8-hour performance of studying with highlighters and background videos, constantly burning out? Or do you want to be the productive student, putting in 90 minutes of deep, silent flow with extremely high retention? One is just performing the art of studying, the other is actually doing the work.
Ultimately, this entire explainer boils down to a fundamental shift in your identity. Real change isn't about doing different things, it's about being a different person. An average student wakes up and asks themselves if they feel like studying today. An elite student doesn't even debate it, because doing deep, focused work has simply become who they are.
So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. What kind of mind do you actually want to live inside of for the rest of your life? Are you ready to cast a vote for the person you're becoming today by just putting your phone in the other room and locking in? The choice is entirely up to you.